is incredible. It's how it feels at the top. Got no incentive to stop. Payment is only the rock. So I take water and soda, then hit them with lyrics and mix them up all in the pot. While in the jungle, they won't be tame. Keep them alive but without a brain. They want me broke with a lot of fame. Smiling but he in a lot of pain. Till he tap out like a lot of names. You gotta give me what's owed. Taking control. No, this is not a game. No.
It's time for another edition of Inside Notre Dame Men's Basketball, presented by TireRack.com. I'm your host, Tony Simeone, joined by the head coach, Mike Brey. Coach, this week you went 1-1. You had a great win at home, 34 points. Then you lose a tough one down there on the road at Tallahassee. As a coach, just what's your takeaway from a week like this?
Well, I love our team, and I love the position that we've earned to date. No question, we played great and together, and it was a fun atmosphere against Georgia Tech. And then we ran into a bit of a buzzsaw in Tallahassee. We've not had much luck in Tallahassee. They really shot it well. We fought, gave ourselves a chance, but I think you got to tip your cap to Florida State. They made more big plays than us.
One thing you did lock up with the victory against Georgia Tech was a top 3 seed in the ACC tournament. Gives you a double bye, a real advantage going into Brooklyn. How important was that for your team to take care of that before the end of the season?
I think that's something to be really proud of. I think that is our 4th double bye that we've locked in 9 years in this league, and it gives you a chance to win it. There's no question. I don't know if you can, people have won 4, and then some have even won 5 in a row, but man, you gotta be, I think, playing on Thursday to get to Saturday, and we know we're gonna be in the evening session. We'd like to earn the 2 seed.
Coach, appreciate it. When we come back, we'll break down both the games versus Georgia Tech and Florida State on this week's edition of Inside Notre Dame Men's Basketball, presented by TireRack.com. Welcome back to Inside Notre Dame Men's Basketball, presented by TireRack.com. It's now time for this week's game breakdown as we go inside both of Notre Dame's games from this week. Coach, let's start with Georgia Tech. Obviously a great win, 34 points, but let's start before the game. Coming into this one, you actually knew it was the last game with your student section in the crowd. How important was it to get out to a good start in this game for you guys?
Well, I wanted us to deliver for our student section because they have been fabulous. Then they go on spring break. We know we're going to lose them for the Pittsburgh game, but we got out of the gate early, and we got out of the gate early, keeping it to one and done and running. You know, one of the things I think that helps us is getting down the floor fast. We're such a good passing team, and we were able to do that early.
One of the guys that took advantage of that transition was Dane Goodwin. Has been in single figures a few more times recently, but 17 points. They all came in the first half. What did you see from him in the first half that you liked, and what's the Dane Goodwin that you saw that you hope will keep it going here in March?
I think the transition opportunities really helped him. You know, he runs the floor, he gets down the floor, and he plays with guards, Blake, Cormac, Prentice, who throw ahead. And we threw ahead a lot quickly, and he just attacked and made plays. And it's something I think we've got to keep working on and stressing. Easy baskets in transition when we can get them.
Your team assisted on 21 of the 30 field goals. I know that's a huge number for you. Specifically, Prentice Hub, again, I think over the course of his last 3 games is over 7 assists per game. When the ball is moving like that, how dynamic can this team be offensively?
You know, it's one of the things that maybe is most gratifying to me as their coach, when that ball moves and they share it like that. And there is a great trust, and I think we know, we've learned, when we share it like that, we got a great chance of winning, and we've got to continue to do that through the month of March.
Blake Wesley also had a great first half for you, 15 points. What stood out to me was his ability to get to the rim, and we've talked about it the last couple of weeks. When he's maybe settling for less threes and putting his head down, going to the rim, that seems to unlock even more of his offensive potential. Is that what you saw from him in the first half?
I did, and I think that's where he's grown as a basketball player, you know, since January. Maybe settling for threes a little too much. Now, after some movement, driving the ball, getting fouled, driving the ball, finding people. I'm really proud of how his game has matured as a young guy.
The other guy who I wanted to hit on who's really kind of found his role is Cormac Ryan. In this game, he actually had a career-high 10 rebounds. We've talked about him all year. He's found his offense now, last 5 games, over 12 points per game. It just seems like he's figured out his role, and now he really can find the way to best contribute to this team.
I would agree with that. I think, he's always defended and rebounded for us and done the dirty work on that end of the floor. I think he was still searching for a tempo on offense. We thought he played a little fast and a little hurried, and he's really kind of let the game come to him. He's digesting it. But right now, we need him to continue to play the way he's playing.
Something that was really fun to watch, I thought, in this game was the fact that you got some guys on the floor that haven't seen a lot of big minutes this year. Let's start first with J.R. Knesny. He's a freshman that I think a lot of people are excited about because he's from the area. Hasn't seen a lot of crunch time minutes, but he got on the floor, had a dunk. What excites you about JR's future?
It's Tim Abramitis all over again. This long-term plan of getting older. He's gained 18 pounds since he's been here, and he can get more. So the strength is coming. But what our people saw, and they haven't got to see him much, he has got great lift and bounce around the basket. He's a fearless competitor. He is going to be a key guy for us right away next season. He just needs that year to get older and stronger, and he's doing it.
Zona and Tony Sanders Jr. got on the floor as well. I talked to Matt Zona earlier this year. He really embraced his role as doing whatever he had to do. He's played some big minutes actually here and there coming off the bench to get those guys some run. What did it mean to you as a head coach?
Yeah, and again, for Matt and Tony, this is year 2 where maybe they have not been a big part of it yet. Their attitudes and their work ethic when they come in and they're in blue shirts and going after the white shirts has really been a key.
90-56 was the final. In fact, that's the biggest margin of victory you guys have had since joining the ACC when playing a conference opponent. So to win a game like that, what did that say about the mental makeup of this team?
Yeah, I think, we had it going on both ends. And I also know we wanted to deliver for our fans. I've mentioned our students, and they've been great. But our season ticket holders have been awesome too. We had a sellout. I think we've been really fun to watch. We've given them some exciting nights in the building, and we've got one more.
Coach, appreciate it. We'll step aside and come back with more on this week's edition of Inside Notre Dame Men's Basketball, presented by TireRack.com. Welcome back to Inside Notre Dame Men's Basketball, presented by TireRack.com. It's time to continue our game breakdown as we look at the Florida State game from this week. Coach, going down to Tallahassee, it's a place you hadn't won yet. You knew it was going to be a difficult game because they have a ton of talent, a lot of length on that Florida State roster. Even though they weren't playing well, it seemed like you knew this was going to be a tough game going in.
Yeah, that's been a tough place for us, and I tried to challenge our guys, forget about standings or double bye or bracketology. How about we try and get a win in Tallahassee? We haven't done it, and certainly the seniors haven't done it. And we ran into a little bit of a buzzsaw. They came out and shot the heck out of the ball. I don't know if we fully expected them to make shots like that, but yet we hung in and battled. But as you said, Tony, I think at the end of the day, their length and our inability at key times to get the first miss kind of cost us.
Let me follow up on then that note you made about Trey Wirtz. He was one of the guys I was going to ask you about. We talked about his great performance against Georgia Tech. Maybe the stats weren't there, but I thought he gave you an amazing 3 minutes at the end of the first half. He hit a three, created some great looks for Nate Leszewski and your team. It just seems like he's coming on here.
Trey Wirtz is playing really well for us. And, you want to start your seniors on senior day. I wish I could start 6 guys, because he should be in there too. But he's always had a great feel for the game. Look at his assist to turnover. He is a shot maker when it's a good shot. Where I think he's really grown is defensively and being physical in the paint and getting some defensive rebounds, and we need him this month.
One of the guys he set up, I just mentioned, Nate Leszewski, had 3 threes in the first half. He was in the starting lineup earlier this year, and he seems to have really accepted this role coming off the bench since Cormac's been inserted to the starting lineup. What does that say about his mental makeup that he hasn't sulked, he's just come out and he's really delivered from you in big ways off the bench?
I utmost respect for Nate. He's always been a team guy, and I think he was smart enough and looked and said, and it's not anything I even sat down and talked to him about when he got healthy and was back. He's watching us and going, all right, Cormac, his roommate, is playing really well. We're in a good rhythm. I'll get in this role. I'll watch the game a little bit. I'm still going to play starters minutes, and I'm going to come off. And that again, that's a team guy. That's a guy who gets it. That's a guy who wants to win, and I have the utmost respect for him.
Your leading scorer at halftime was Blake Wesley. He had 11 points, only took 1 3. So again, he's just putting his head down, going to the rim. What'd you like from him in the first half? And I need to get a comment on the dunk he had. That really took a lot of people's breath away.
Again, the feel for the game, being more efficient, not settling for jump shots, getting into the lane, driving the ball. The flush was a ESPN top 10 kind of thing. He made a play at half court where he went behind his back in the second half, and 3 guys fell down from Florida State. And there's special talent stuff that happens every game where I go, whoa. but he's been a great teammate, and he has great teammates that have helped him grow.
Paul Atkinson, I think, flew under the radar with another double-double, 17 points, 10 rebounds. He's been in double figures now 10 of the last 11 games. And again, you mentioned all the length that Florida State has. This is an opponent that I think maybe 3 months ago, Paul might not have performed the way he did. But man, 17 and 10 against that team on the road, he really seems to have found a consistent way to deliver for you.
He didn't have a good early second half. They blocked a couple. He lost a couple out of bounds. We got him out of there. And when he goes back in, he just goes right back. It doesn't affect him. He's a warrior. He now knows what's coming at him physically every game in this league.
You mentioned having to flush this. So when you get in the locker room, you start moving on and looking towards the last game. What was the message and how do you get this team ready? Because the game against Pittsburgh, we'll talk about it a little bit later too. It's a huge one for you. The way you can end the season on a high note here at home. How do you get them to move past Florida State and get ready for Pitt?
Well, it's real easy because it's senior day. And we have 7 of them that we want to honor. It's really cool to see them, that their families will be here, and certainly, you know, on senior day, you want to get it for them. I know it means second place and momentum going to Brooklyn, but it's kind of a special day. Last home game, play well in front of our fans. They're going to have a lot of family here, and can we earn one? Now, we're playing a team that, you know, we had to scratch and claw to beat. They're good on the road, and it's an ACC game, and I expect a really tough game against Pittsburgh.
Coach, appreciate it. We'll step aside and come back with more on this week's edition of Inside Notre Dame Men's Basketball, presented by TireRack.com. Welcome back to Inside Notre Dame Men's Basketball, presented by TireRack.com. It's now time for this week's edition of Irish Intel as we go inside the play. Coach, this is against Georgia Tech. You guys had all kinds of success against the Yellow Jackets. Wanted to focus on this play because we don't talk a lot about Paul Atkinson in these segments with his great post work, but just tell me why this makes him such an effective low post player for you.
Well, good initial feel by Cormac Ryan here. We get the ball screen, he rolls, we throw back, and Blake goes right into the post, and watch his footwork. One-on-one in the post, forget it. I mean, that is an absolute ballet dancer on the basketball court. And Paul is in a good rhythm, and his teammates know when we throw it to him there, it's good for us.
I think there was a lot of focus on how he would adjust defensively to the ACC when he came in, but he seems like he's made a ton of strides offensively as well. What have you seen over the last 3 months that's allowed him to generate more offense for you on the block?
Well, he's really confident. I think he's confident. He's adjusted. You know, his body's in shape. Mm-hmm. He's strong because he's been in our training program, and he's got people that can make shots. So look at the spacing. Look at the spacing. You can't overhelp off of guys that can make shots, and him one-on-one. I mean, this is just beautiful. You know, you could teach a little bit of that, but a lot of that is just natural feet, man. That's ballet right there. He's a dancer.
All right, Coach, this is late in the game against Georgia Tech. You have some guys on the floor that haven't seen a ton of minutes this year, but it's some great offensive execution. J.R. Knezdny is going to get the basket, but talk me through what it means as a coach to see them execute like this on the floor late.
Well, you know, this is our blue team, and for them to get some game minutes in an ACC game is so important, but they're playing the right way. They're coming in, they're playing the right way, right? We get a little great back cut by JR, and that's the stuff he can do. Great pass by Elijah Morgan. You know, just playing the right way, even at the end of the game when the spread is big. You know what else I really love? Watch the starters over there cheer on their teammates. That's fabric, man. That's what it's all about. You know, they love these guys, they respect these guys, but real good feel by Elijah. And then JR gets a feel for going without it. And man, is he going to be a great cutter and finisher next year for us.
To see them reciprocate that without hesitation, it just shows how connected this team is.
That's your goal as the leader, to create that kind. Is that the highest Blake has gotten, you know, this year? And he's gotten up there. But that's what you're trying to create in unison. That's why it's awesome to be part of a team.
Thanks, Coach. When we come back, we'll have this week's edition of Irishography on Inside Notre Dame Men's Basketball, presented by TireRack.com. So, Coach, you guys are now 30 games into the season. I just want to ask, what's been the most rewarding part about coaching this team this year and seeing their development?
It's been one of my more gratifying experiences over the last probably 10 years in the profession. We've had some great, consistent success throughout this season, which is something that really has excited us and really felt like we're making strides with where we want to be and how we want to play the game on both sides of the floor.
So what does it take to get a team to buy in and then ultimately put that plan into action on the floor defensively the way this team has this year?
Balance and consistency are two of my favorite words. The reputation is always about Coach being this offensive guy. Well, I've always tried to balance him and be this defensive guy, because the mentality of stop scores, it's a lot easier to score when the your opponent has missed versus you getting it out of the net. And that's when we do that, get stops. The ability for us to really play freely and share the game offensively, it's a beautiful thing to watch. But again, to impact winning individually and collectively, you got to do it on that defensive side of the floor as well.
What about this place excites you? What about this place is special to you? Why do you find yourself at Notre Dame again?
Coach Brey and I, we've grown a great relationship over the years. There's been much respect for he and I in terms of how each of us have gone about our careers in college coaching and the level of success while we're both striving to leave our legacies throughout the profession. But we enjoy the young people that we're able to attract at Notre Dame. And Notre Dame is not about the present. A lot of it is about beyond your years at Notre Dame. And it's a great environment for young people to grow in.
You led me to my last question, which is just about the month of March. And I want to know, obviously it's been a great year, but what's going to be the key for this team in the postseason, whether it's ACC tournament, NCAA tournament, and beyond? As a coach, when you look at this team, what do you guys have to do to make this the successful postseason that you guys want it to be?
We're going back to the beginning. We're going back to where it all started. You have to defend the basketball. It's probably a big reason why I do what I do every day. It's always on my mind to play in March. And, my last time here was in 16, and that was the end of back-to-back Elite Eight experiences. I've ripped some suit pants on the bench. No one ever knew that, but it was all worth it. The experience of March is what it's about, and I love it for the young people we work with, even the managers. It's a beautiful thing for everyone to share in, and why not Notre Dame basketball being led by Coach Mike Brey.
Coach, appreciate it, and good luck in the postseason.
Thank you, Tony.
When we come back, we'll look ahead at Notre Dame's upcoming games on this week's edition of Inside Notre Dame Men's Basketball, presented by TireRack.com. Welcome back to Inside Notre Dame Men's Basketball, presented by TireRack.com. It's now time to wrap up this week's show. Coach, one final regular season game. It's against Pittsburgh. We talked about it a little bit earlier, how it's going to be a great senior day. A tough Pittsburgh team coming in that really pushed you earlier in the season. But when you think about this senior class, what comes to mind as you send them off with their final home game?
How they've grown together and learned to get tougher and better and learned that they needed each other. And to see 7 of them earning degrees from this great university in a couple months, I'm a proud father when I think about those 7.
Let's look ahead a little bit further. You, of course, have locked up the double bye, as we talked about. Not quite sure yet where you'll be seated, but as you said, you're going to play in the evening half of the bracket, so you know at least a little bit where you'll be situated. You have a chance to win 3 in a row to win an ACC championship. You did it back in 2015. When you get set for the postseason like this, what's the mindset going to be for this team going into Brooklyn?
Well, first of all, I like going to New York. It reminds me of the old Big East days. I love going to the city. We are 9-3 in Barclays, and we're 11-6 overall in the ACC tournament. I like the karma as we head up there. And the last time the tournament was there, we were in position to win a second one, and Bonzie Colson sprained his ankle, and Duke got us. So maybe there's some unfinished business in that building we'd like to revisit.
Coach, thanks. Looking forward to the postseason. That does it for this week's edition of Inside Notre Dame Men's Basketball, presented by TireRack.com.